Alright, this book is Swan Boat Season in Boston. The author is Jennifer Delaney. The illustrator is Rachel Balsaltis. It's a kind of cool map of the Boston Public Garden. Each year, on a Saturday in mid-April, swan boat season begins. And last year on that day, my grandma told me this story, which her grandma used to tell her. When I was a little girl about your age, there was a special spring day each year when my grandma would come into my room and say, "Today is the day. Pick your most beautiful dress and shoes. Brush your hair, brush your teeth, and meet me downstairs." I would bound out of bed. Moments later, Grandma, Mama, and I walked out the front door of our building, the Carlton House. I would curtsy to the doorman, Norman, and he would always bow. "Off to see the swans, ladies?" he said. "Of course," said Grandma. We crossed the street and entered the historic iron gates. I was the luckiest child in the world to have the Boston Public Garden as my front yard. There were lots of birds to see: hawks, mallards, sparrows, herons, and of course pigeons. And seeing the flowers and statues and fountains was like walking through a painting. There they are up there. We stopped at the footbridge, and I see them, majestic and graceful as they glide over the water, the royalty of the public gardens. It's opening day for the swans. Not real swans, of course. The real swans don't return until it gets warmer. They spend their cold months at the Franklin Park Zoo in Boston. In early May, they parade through the park from Charles Street all the way to the lagoon, where they waddle back into the water to spend the warm summer months gliding along with their cousins, the swan boats. Every year, the ladies in our family take one of the first rides on the swan boats. It's our special tradition, just like the swan boats are one of Boston's great traditions. And it isn't just people who love to visit the swans. I heard a story once about a mama and papa mallard that traveled a long way just to raise their ducklings in this beautiful place. Their story is so special that life-size statues are made of them and all of their babies. Something people may not know about the swan boats is that they've been owned and operated by the Paget family since they opened in 1877. While we are waiting, the Paget family comes along to say hello. My grandma told me the story about how her grandma remembered the first day they opened when she went with her grandma. That was many, many grandmas ago. It was around 1870 when Robert Paget got a boat for hire license from the city. Rowing a small boat in the public garden lagoon was a favorite pastime for Boston residents. But in 1877, Robert introduced a new kind of boat with a paddle wheel. He decided to cover the wheel with a beautiful swan, so nobody would see the driver pedaling. He got the idea from an opera based on a medieval German story where a knight named Lohengrin crosses the river in a boat drawn by a swan to defend Princess Elsa. He was so brave. Sadly, Robert Paget lived only 1 year after the first swan boat sailed. People thought they might never get to ride on the beautiful swans again. Surprisingly, to everyone's delight, his wife, Julia, and their 4 children kept the swans going. Long ago, women were not allowed to run businesses, so Julia had to gather signatures from the local business owners each year to allow her to keep the swans going, which she did for many, many years. Later, Julius' son and his wife, Ella, continued the tradition. The ride got so popular they added some more boats, until they had 6 in all. The original boats carried only a few people each, but now each can carry 20 people. Paul and Marilyn Paget became the next generation to run the Swans, and the family still runs the boats today. A lot of things have changed in Boston over the years, with modern cars and tall buildings and even a subway. But the Swan boats never changed. They're just as beautiful as always. That's one of the tickets and tokens. It was now time for the Swan boats to take off. The first ride is always reserved for the mayor, his family, and some lucky school children. Off they go. You see why they call it the Swan boats? See the swan, the back? Opening day for the Swan boats has been our family's tradition since they began. Nothing has kept us from them. And after my grandma grew up, she took my mom and then me. Today, people come from not only Boston, but all over the world to see our amazing city and ride in the lagoon of the public garden with the swans. Well, enough about the stories from when I was little. Now it's your turn to see the wonder for yourself, my little star. Let's go. The swans are waiting. She could see the garden out the window of her house. That'd be a pretty cool place to live. And this tells about some flowers that are blooming there right now in the spring. And then some that bloom in the summer. And some that bloom in the fall. There's that map again. There's a swan boat. And here's the little duckling statues from Make Way for Ducklings. Pretty cool, huh?